I just like jumped into the unknown. And like what's the worst that can happen?
Introducing Miss Nikita Tanwani.
I never regret anything in life. I mean, I just can't recall any regrets, because it's also like just the way you perceive things. If you're going to look at it as a regret, I would call it a bad decision.
Winner of the India's largest online pageant.
She is the founder of the fastest growing beauty pageant grooming institute, Conquer.
I was more confident in my coaching skills than my skills as a contestant.
When you don't focus much on results, that's the time when they do come up.
When I started Conquer, I thought, oh, it's going to take me at least 5 years to be even recognized in the country. And the fact that our very first Miss India that happened after Conquer launched, we had 2 state winners.
I just want to know, I'm just curious to know, what is modeling for you as a definition?
Modeling teaches you a lot about rejection in general.
That's a huge thing to move on from.
It takes you like 6 months, a year sometimes to like really get over the whole feeling.
What message do you have for women? Hello everyone. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Liquid Gold podcast. I'm so happy to be announcing that this is our first female guest speaker, and I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity, better time for it. Miss Nikita Tanwani has taught me so much and given me a perspective of modeling that I wasn't expecting to see. I'm so happy that my audience and you guys would be able to share that experience and take it with you as well. So without further ado, here's Miss Nikita Tanwani in the Liquid Gold podcast. So put on your headphones, sit back, relax, and let's just transform the life lessons into the liquid gold. Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on which area you're from. My name is Mirza Jahangir Beg and welcome to another exciting episode of the Liquid Gold podcast. We're just trying our best to amp up with each and every episode, and I'm so glad, so happy that we are featuring our first female guest speaker in this podcast who has tremendous experience so far and would be informing us about so many things that we are unknown for, and we haven't seen that side yet. So we are introducing Miss Nikita Tanwani to our podcast for now, who is an engineer turned model and a content creator, and is very well known for her global coaching brand in the beauty pageant space called Conquer with Nikita Tanwani. Having graduated from one of the premier institutions, that is BITS Pilani, which is located in India, at 2017, she has first worked as an applications engineer at Oracle for 3 years, where she began her journey as a freelance model and also stepped into pageantry. And I'm very excited to have her in our podcast to speak about her experiences and what she wants to add to our liquid gold experience. So thank you so much, Miss Nikita Tanwani. How are you? And thank you so much for just coming in, first of all.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Ever since we connected, I did, start watching the TLG podcast, and I liked a lot of the conversations, like how it's very different and it's quite informative for the audiences as well. So I am also honored to be one of the first female guests on board, and I hope that the trend kind of continues and that we have more women coming up because women have accomplished so much in different fields.
There is a first time for everything, and I'm just so sad that we couldn't have the first episode with a bang with a female speaker. But again, just having you on board, it's giving a different energy to the whole podcast. It's giving a different energy, different structure to how we are going to start with everything. And I'm just so happy that, this is the stepping stone to which we are diving in, because this also refers to a very diverse and a very a very embarking journey, being a model. But before a model, you were an engineer, which is what many girls and many women out there are pursuing as we speak. Even in my field, which is civil engineering, I've had 3 to 4 female students with my engineering course during when I was pursuing my engineering, and it's quite well to see them do that. but how did that transition go about with you? Like, how was it?
So I would say that while the transition did happen somewhere completely in 2020, but I knew that I was interested in the field of fashion and entertainment, particularly, ever since I was 16. So engineering was just something that happened because it is the safest route, and like most Indian kids, I kind of had to choose between engineering and medicine, and then engineering just seemed like the option to go with. But
Mm-hmm.
when I was 16 and when I was first asked, like, what subject do you want to take up? I had actually just told my parents, I want to become a model. And so at that time, the dream wasn't obviously encouraged, and academics were a priority, but it was always something that was there in the back of my mind. And so when I actually went to Vitspilani, I joined the fashion club there. Like, somewhere I was always trying to be in touch with what my interests are. And naive Nikita back then had these dreams that, oh, she's someday just gonna get scouted somewhere. So I used to just like walk around the streets just expecting to get scouted, which I think subconsciously kind of helped me, just like carry myself the way I do now. Even though people may ridicule women sometimes, oh, like, we hear these things, oh, तुम makeup लगा के कहाँ जा रही हो, तुम इतना क्या समझती हो खुद को, all of that stuff. And I think that's why so many women are sometimes like scared to even just be outspoken about the fact that they are interested in something like that, because you're told to be like, soft spoken and like tone it down and don't like to think too much of themselves. And because of that, so many women, young girls especially, they come up with these confidence and self-esteem issues, because when they were being confident, you were told that, what do you think of yourself, right? So I think like modeling was that for me. Like I wanted to somewhere just like feel good about myself and like be like those women who walk with so much confidence and just do that. And I had read this quote that says that if you want to live the life of your dreams, the only way to make that happen is to start living it. And so I just did that. And for a long time, I did feel that it's kind of impossible. Like I'm too late to the industry and all of that. All I needed was someone to tell me that it's possible, because like if something's not possible because of like technical issues, you can't really do much. But then I got a hint that it's possible to start modeling in 2017. This is when I had landed a great offer at Oracle and moved to Hyderabad, which was the first time I was in like a proper city, because Jaipur was not, back in 2017 at least, Jaipur was not like a really big city, although it's grown since then. And so I had all these opportunities in front of me, and I just like started emailing, networking, and once I knew it's possible, because I saw one of my college seniors modeling at Pune Times Fashion Week, and I just had to like go for it. And ever since then, like I just didn't look back. I was like, I don't care. I mean, I'm just gonna make it happen, because I've been working towards this all my life and like wanting this. So like I always think of some things like, okay, what's stopping you? Not like, how can I do this? I'm going to figure that out. But like, what's stopping you? And secondly, like my motto is regret needs to be like a minimum. So I worked with that. And so from 2017 to, so yeah, for the next 3 years, I just like did freelance modeling. I also worked at Oracle. I also dabbled in pageants. And so like, I did not take a break for like those 3 years. I remember like I took a vacation after like 4-5 years at that time. And so it was like an intense period, but then that work didn't really feel like work. And I felt like I was living the dream, because in college and school, I remember people used to ask me like, what type of job do you want? People used to say, oh, I want a job that pays well and has like a good work-life balance. And I used to find that quite odd, because I was like, what were you going to do with work-life balance at the time? You're in your early 20s, don't have any balance, just go for it. So I used to say like, oh, I want a job that keeps me occupied like 24/7. Like if something keeps me this occupied that I have no time to hang out and chill with my friends, I would, like, that's just me. I mean, I don't endorse workaholism, and like it's can be like toxic at some level, but I was that person. And so I felt like between 20 to 25, you can go for it, like give it your all. And so it was like one job wasn't enough for me. Like I need to do more in life. So I just took up more and more things. And yeah, And then 2020, it hit me
Yeah.
that my job wasn't making me that happy. So it was just like I had
Hmm.
given it 6 months, a year to think, and I had fortunately been able to have enough of a safety net for myself financially to take the risk and quit my job in the middle of the lockdown, even when photo shoots were like on a halt because of the COVID. And I just like jumped into the unknown. And, like, what's the worst that can happen? I was like, I have nothing to lose, really. I've saved up enough money for myself. I can just like give myself a whole year. And in the larger picture of life, it's not going to matter. If I ever want to go back to corporate, I can. I
Yeah.
mean, I still have the degree, I still have the experience. What's stopping me from just experimenting? So I just went for it, and then
Hmm.
I never looked back again.
No, that's great because I was at that stage when I first came in here for my masters, and when you feel that you're at the top bottom and you're just starting out, you really don't have anything to look behind you, and you feel as if what's the worst that can happen now, you know, what's the other bad end towards this, because I am at the pit, I'm at the bottom of the bottom. So because you have that nature and that drive that you have nothing to lose, I've seen much growth in that phase. And just to start off from zero, and then 365 days later, I was just recalling those moments, and I was like, when I stepped my foot into this country, I had zero connections, zero people to talk to, zero friends. And now after 1 year, I have a family, I have such a good set of friends, I have made so many networks with so many big individuals in good fields. And from there on, I've just never stopped. And like you said, when you start your corporate journey, you feel as if there is a whiteboard ahead of you, because that's the plan that you have and your parents have for you up till that point. And once that's achieved, you feel as if there's so much more to life that you can do, and you have done what you were expected of, and now you can pursue what you feel like. But again, as well, like, not to bash on those ideologies as well, because you've mentioned you have that degree, you have that experience, you have a safety net behind you. That's something that not many people, when they try to dive themselves into a new journey, they don't see to that aspect, and how important a safety net is, and which I totally get now because I'm starting my journey as a graduate engineer, and I do get that. But do you think there were some skills that you learned from corporate life that helped you with your modeling journey?
I would say having multiple professions certainly instilled a lot of discipline in me, time management.
Mm,
And in fact, now that I am, say, leading a team of people and I have like a company, like it's a very small company, in no way is it an MNC, but the way I schedule my weekly meetings, the task delegation, just like we used to have these Jira task boards back in office, and I have something very similar going on at Concur. So like the organizing structure, a lot of things that I learned from my manager back then, like I do implement them, and I feel like everything you go through in life. My mom used to always tell this to me: nothing goes to waste. Like you can always implement something
that's
somewhere.
true.
So I know that something I learned in FitG, like when I was coaching for IIT I now implement that at Concur because it's a coaching institute. What
Mm,
I learned as my company at Oracle, I implement that at the firm that is Concur, which is like it's the same thing, but there are different aspects to the job that you're doing. So I keep implementing whatever I have as experience. So it's definitely helped. I mean, in no way is it a waste of experience or years. I never regret anything in life. I mean, I just can't recall any regrets because it's also like just the way you perceive things. If you're going to look at it as a regret,
yeah.
I would call it a bad decision, but that's the reason I was able to quit my job, have the safety net. So why would I like ever want to think badly of
No, I totally get that. I'm very much in par with your vision because I do have the same kind of approach. I do have the same kind of workaholism as well that you mentioned. मगर यही चीज़ है जो मैं like देख रहा हूँ आपके भी contents से and आपकी बातों से, especially that it hits me a lot, and I'm quite like relating to this journey, because this is somewhat the same mindset that I have adopted with me, and same thing, zero regrets, because if कोई भी चीज करने से पहले मैं 3-4 दिन लेके 1000 बार सोच लूंगा, एंड 4 दिन बाद अगर एक बार डिसीजन ले लूंगा तो फिर दैट्स माय डिसीजन, एंड उसके अच्छा हुआ तो अच्छा हुआ, बुरा हुआ तो मेरा डिसीजन था, तो मेरे मैं लाइक लिव करूंगा उस कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस के साथ. दैट्स हाउ आई एम pursuing it to be. So at the moment, Conquer, that which is your coaching brand, it has launched within these 2 years, within a 2 year progressing, was since it was founded. It has given out like Miss Supranational 2023, Femina Miss India 2022, and Miss Manchester as well. So like how has this transpired, and how have did you felt this growth, that this is my aim, that within these 2 years this would be the accomplished things that we would be checking off with Conquer, and or did it just happen because of your vision of just driving and teaching your students on how to do this properly?
I don't think I would say that I had any such goals, because like when you're coaching, it could be like, say, I wouldn't even say 50%. There's a part of me that's involved in their journey, but so much of it is the student herself. So I probably have been very fortunate that I've had such amazing students. But the reason they came to me and trusted me with their journey is also because of everything that I put in, the energy that you put out. Long before I started Conquer, I started on YouTube, right? So they knew that I come from a good intention with wanting to help and wanting to educate, even when I wasn't getting paid for it for a whole year. And I still continue to do that. It never stopped. So YouTube continues even though Conquer is going on. And so I did know that I was putting in my 200%, and I was more confident in my coaching skills than my skills as a contestant. I would say that because when I was in Miss India, I remember feeling like I'm not really sure about my own victory. And maybe I just grew, from that experience as well. Sometimes I wish there were things I wish I could have attempted it multiple times, because then I could have had another chance. But because of the age criteria, I didn't get another chance. But then everything that I would have wanted as a resource, I would have wanted my coaches to tell me when I was there, because I've gone through the exact same pageant system. I know for a fact what is needed. So I designed the curriculum of Conquer in that way. What I put out on YouTube is what I would have wanted. And so I feel that really helped, destiny, fate, I do believe in those things. So maybe I was not meant to be there, but I was meant to be this person. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of what I put into it attracted, how good attracts good. When you were saying that you relate to it, I was yeah, because I do feel there's like-minded people kind of just come together, and you can recognize that from a distance. So I've started to tune into the energies really lately, and this doesn't happen I wasn't this person as a teenager, but then I feel my students can also recognize that. So every student has a different personality. I wouldn't say I can coach almost every single student into a winner. Why? Because our energies need to match.
Yeah.
So if we resonate and if we are a good pair, we are going to see that in the results, because we need to understand each other that way. I was talking to someone else just an hour ago and telling them that when I coach, I don't coach from a technical perspective a lot of the times. I'm just looking at the girl, and sometimes I see a mini version of me and her, and I ask her, I was are you thinking this right now? And she's yeah, that's what's going on in my head. And so it doesn't matter how your hands move or your feet move. It's the self-talk that's going on in your mind that's affecting your performance. So I sit down with them and I always share my stories, my experiences, and that has seemed to be the most effective way of coaching as well. So I guess that's how it has transpired into the amazing results that we've had. If I have to be honest, when I started Conquer, I thought, it's going to take me at least 5 years to be even recognized in the country. And the fact that our very first Miss India that happened after Conquer launched, we had 2 state winners. I couldn't believe it myself. I was like, what just happened? But yeah, that definitely boosted the recognition that we got. And it gave me a lot more motivation as well. I mean, I don't want to come from a place like, oh, I'm the best coach. I mean, I'm constantly learning myself. So, but then it did give me a push. Oh, you're on the right path. You must be doing something right for this to happen. So that was a good
Yeah.
feeling.
And it also resonates with how you love your profession and how you don't feel like it's work, that you mentioned before as well, because it resonates to the audience, it resonates to your students, I hope, and I know that, because it shows, results are something. When you don't focus much on results, then that's the time when they do come up. That's something that I've learned as well with my process of how I'm working on with my journey. But yeah, that's how I feel, that when you are working towards your in like perfecting your craft, the accomplishments and achievements just find a way within your journey to just attach them to you. And after you've been there, done that, you feel as if I wasn't required to think much highly of those achievements, because if I see myself in that, then yeah, it will surely come up to me. I think that's how it was. And I'm really happy that you've also managed to set a huge examples, and I'm hopeful that many audience members who are listening, they might also resonate with how relatable this journey is, and how um, they can learn so much from this and just help themselves with their craft, whatever they're pursuing. But regarding modeling, what do you just I'm just curious, because again, coming from a male, not that informed about it. I've tried to audition for Mr. Freshers when I was in my uni, and I really sucked at it, because in my mind I was thinking, oh, I'm the best guy in my house. My mom's always happy with how I am, so yeah, I might be very good with it. And it just backfired so badly. And that day I learned how hard it truly is, because you're not just it's not like there is a rule book that, okay, you have to do this. There are some basics that you really need to focus on, but when you start, then you have to have a very clear head. That's something that when I it's literally a 5-minute experience for me, that I'm telling expressing it to you, that I'm explaining, that those 5 minutes that I just did it, came back, and then I knew I wasn't going to be selected. And then I saw the other guys who were doing it so well, and I was thinking to myself, what are they doing? And then behind the so outside the classroom, they were trying to balance 3 set of books over their head and trying to walk in a straight line, and they were trying their best to maintain their composure and everything. And then I really thought to myself that this is a craft, this is a skill, that and it's truly important. Like, communication skills always there, you see that with every Miss India pageant that you see. But having a clear head was something that I wasn't expecting, because when I was walking, I was looking at the judge's eyes, I was just thinking to myself, is she liking it? Because you know that people are judging you, and at the same time you have to walk as if no one cares and no one's judging you. But so this is my perspective on how I see it. But I just want to know, I'm just curious to know, what is modeling for you as a definition, now being there, done that, now teaching people, and how's that transform the definition for modeling for you?
So, it reminds me, like what you just said, reminded me of so many conversations. It is definitely a challenging job, uh, and definitely, like, see, modeling, there's this perception that exists. Yeah, it looks easy. And I like to tell my students also that if a job looks easy, that means it's even more harder. Why? Because, like, one, you have to do it, and secondly, you have to make it look easy. So that's not going to be easy,
That's true.
right? To make it look so effortless. Modeling to me now, if I had to define it, is if anyone wants to, live their life feeling that I can be whoever I want to be, you can be a model, right? I love it because, it's not just the task of posing in front of a camera or walking on a ramp. It teaches you so much. It teaches you how to network with people. It teaches you how to just command presence when you walk into a room. There's so much personality development. And this profession, I would say, the holistic growth that comes with it is unparalleled compared to a lot of the other professions, right? You might get that same type of growth, but it might take years, right? Here, they just like being in modeling, I feel like it just like throws you into fire and like go deal with it now, because you need to perform every single day. There can't be bad days, right? I mean, because the job is ever changing. You don't know what you're going to be expected to do on the ground the very next day. So some days you're like acting to be a doctor, some days you're like climbing a tree, some days you have to like swim and pose, and like anything could be happening. Some days you gotta like pose for a sari, some days you gotta pose in like a suit and a pant, right? So like the person that you're acting to be, like modeling is a lot of acting, it changes so often. At the same time, there's whole like a business aspect to modeling. You have to network, so you're your own PR, you're your own like lawyer in a lot of the cases, like negotiating on the agreements and contracts. So you learn so much. Like you're already an entrepreneur if you're a model, right? Then now with the whole social media age that we live in, you got to make sure that your social media is up to date, right? So you're gonna have to like work with brands and understand their language, what they want you to highlight when you're advertising them, whether it's in a print campaign or if it's on a social media promotional post. So it just like actually helps you evolve in so many different directions that if you've done that, you can actually go anywhere because you're just so capable of learning on the go. As you said, there is no rule book for this job, which makes it so challenging, right? And it also teaches you how to deal with rejection. Yes, go ahead.
No, yeah, that it is quite challenging because especially with social media now in picture, it's people find to resonate and relate with people with whom they can relate to stuff that they are also doing. That's somehow how the demographic of social media is right now. So if you're doing something and people are looking at it, they relate to it, and that's when you get a follow. But with modeling as well, you have to keep a self persona and also another persona, and you have to maybe for some people, I might be wrong with this, just showing their whole process of how they are pursuing to be a model is now more interesting than being at the top and then coming to people and be like, yeah, you know what, I'm up there, I'm a model, and I'm doing these bits. So it's quite challenging. I'm not sure if you think of that with this as well. Like, do you think that this is challenging with that aspect as well, with social media now being in the picture?
There's definitely pros and cons to it. I mean, the fact that you can connect to anyone in the world, definitely a plus. And you can put yourself out there. Like for a lot of introverts, I feel like, social media is where they got an outlet for their creativity, for everything they had ever wanted to express, because you can actually do it alone in a room. You don't have to go out and mingle. But at the same time, like one of the trends that I've been noticing with social media these days, like it's one way that if you think of it, okay, as a platform, which is how I try to look at it. But then the whole numbers game has come into picture, right? Like now everybody wants to hit a certain milestone. And the way to do that, people, keep saying, like, if you we look at like how to hit 1 million, or how to hit like whatever, 10 million, whatever you want to do, is that you have to stick to a niche these days. I feel like 6 to 8 years ago, you could talk about anything and the relatability would work. But now on social media, this is something I just feel like, why is it like that? I wish it wasn't. Is that you have to have like a niche topic that you talk about, and then people are going to follow you because that becomes your audience and your community. But then I feel like, aren't we all like multifaceted as human beings and individuals? For instance, I have my own pageant content, but I mean, I want to talk about other things also. And that type of content doesn't do very well sometimes. And now I feel Like,
Yeah.
if I want to talk about other things, let me do that too. You don't have to see me just for one thing. I'm a person, I'm going to talk about more than one thing. So I'm trying to bring that change with my content, in fact, right now, because you might start something with the intention, oh, I love talking about this, but then, like, all of us know this, like, if someone makes you do that over and over again for like way too long, you might just fall out of love of the very interest or the passion that you had to
Hmm.
begin with. And to keep that from happening, I think it's important for us to, like, sometimes not care about the numbers because it takes the joy out of it.
Yeah.
So that's like one
No,
con
I
of
agree.
social media for sure.
I do
Have you
get
had
that,
similar
because when
experiences?
yeah, for sure. I started off, so I started off without caring a bit about the numbers, and then we're fairly new. We just started a month ago, and now after a month we saw some rise, and that when we reached our first 100 subscribers, which is not a thing to brag about, but then it just, you sometimes shift away from those bits, and you think to yourself that, you know what, this is important. If people are subscribing, that means people are liking it, and all of those things. And then, when our team started to talk about this bit, when we were having these discussions over meetings, then, words like data and algorithm came out. And when those words were flying around the room, that's when I realized that, let's just not talk about this as something that's not humane. And I said, please don't call it algorithm, call it the audience, because they're our audience. And it doesn't matter what the algorithm says or what the data says. It is quite informative. It tells you, it gives you a picture. But at the same time, I feel that it's better to just refer to people as audience. It's better to do what you love, and if people are going to find it interesting, they're going to join you along the journey. And that's something, for me, starting this was just because of how you've mentioned your journey as well, which was when you started Conquer, you wanted to give those learnings and give those teachings that you thought that you lacked from your peers. And when I came in to my industry, I was invited to two podcasts, and from there on, I had around like 35 individuals coming into my way, into my DMs, into my LinkedIn, and they just wanted insights on how I did what I did. And after talking to them, I felt as if, like, there, and also, mind you, there is so much information out there. There is so many information in YouTube and all the other social media platforms, but still people are finding themselves lost into whatever they want to pursue. And that's what, like, brought this into picture. And I'm so happy with the responses that we are getting, that we are getting some live listeners who are tuning in every time with every episodes. And I'm so happy because we have so many faults in our previous videos that we didn't think about what people would think about it, and we just posted it. And we've been getting some recommendations, some feedback by our audience, and that was something that I wanted, to get an engaging audience to talk to us about what they think we should do better with our content. Well, and I'm just happy to have that bit. And with podcast, which is a long form content, not many people tune in for a long time. But if a person's giving his 50 minutes to you, or an hour and a half to you, they become your instant fan. I believe that, like, they are resonating with with the conversation. And what I want this podcast to have is that whenever our audience listen to it, I feel I want them to feel as if they are the third person who is sitting there and listening to a conversation between two individuals. And if they are seeking it out for knowledge, then it's the best form of content that I can produce. So that's how this came about. And I think I've had that experience fairly early on, just because the rat race is now coming into these platforms as well, hitting milestones, hitting this,
Yes.
hitting that. But yeah, and now I think, just, be comfortable with what you think should go, and be comfortable with what works for you. And if people like it, they're going to come into it. And if I really like people who hate our content as well, because they might see something that I'm not seeing, and if they can highlight that, good for me. I can work on that. But if it's something that's just out of the blue, then yeah, we're just gonna shove it off. But yeah, how has that been for you? You know, how has the audience reacted to you? How do you feel your perception to this is?
Hmm. I would. I feel I've been quite lucky, not a little lucky, quite lucky with how the audience response has been. Um, Although when I did start my YouTube channel, uh, there was some level of, I would say, just negativity around my audience, and it was a very very small portion, and I never let it affect me too much, because it was one of the reasons that I had not ended up winning the competition which I was talking about.
Oh,
And so there was a lot of negativity in the comment section usually, not just like on my channel, like collab channels as well. um, and so
yeah, yeah.
I actually like, it's just because like you didn't win, so who are you to tell and give advice? um, it did get to me in the beginning. I would say it got to me, or not, because how can you say this, and like not once did I question my own advice that I was putting out on a public platform, because I knew what I'm saying comes from experience. I mean, whether I won or not, I did get the experience. um, but it used to
Yeah.
bug me when I was still in the phase of disappointment. Like when you go to a certain level at that platform, I'd be lying if I said that it didn't affect me at all, right? So that is why, like now when I coach, I tell students, okay, you got to be mentally very strong, because there's a 1 in 30 chance that you're going to end up winning, right? So it's not possible to everyone to win.
Hmm.
There's only one Miss India a year. How are you going to go in expecting that I am going to win? You can't guarantee it, right? So there are 29, 30 other girls who leave with disappointment, and I was one of those girls. And it takes you like 6 months, a year sometimes to like really get over the whole feeling. So while I had already started YouTube, I had not emotionally gotten over the results still. And maybe that was my way of
Oh,
staying in
okay.
touch with it, like taking control of things. Like, okay, I didn't win that, but this is completely in my hands. I get to have a say here, and this is what I'm doing. YouTube was partially that for me. Like in the middle of lockdown and after the pageant, um, like somewhere I think a part of me was thinking that why should I let someone else decide my worth, and let's create something of my own.
Hmm.
And that was YouTube for me. So it started with that, and there was like a very small portion of the audience who had negative opinions on it. But then I also constantly believe that if people are pulling you down, that means you're going up. Because if I wasn't doing
Yeah.
anything significant, why would I have people hate on me? So I always took it as a compliment, because, and I've like had these instances where I see a negative comment now and I show it to my husband and I'm like, see. So I actually get very excited about it, because I'm like, that's also a thing. Because if nobody was hating on me, I'd be like, am I not popular enough? So I mean, I've just completely shifted my perspective on it. So yeah, now I just take it in good stride. Yeah.
Yeah, but because there is my favorite line from this movie Guru, the Abhishek Bachchan one. It says that he says that in like his court hearing, that if people are talking behind your back, you have to realize that you are doing something good, you are progressing. But again, like, if it's because I've never been on pageants and I've never walked on ramps before, but I can say that it is an experience. And like, I've shared with you the only one experience I had with my fair share of this modeling industry, and I can tell you how much I learned from it within that 5 minutes. And but I got, like, I knew I wasn't going to be selected. I wasn't serious about it. But if I would be serious about it, and then I would have added in time to it, and then if I would have, not been selected, I'm not I'm just trying to frame that, of how it's affecting your personal worth, of how it's affecting you mentally, because you will think about it, that maybe I'm not as attractive or as um, appealing to the crowd, and it's just in my head. Wow, that's a huge thing to move on from. It's just, adding a huge level of respect from my end to models and to every model out there who are pursuing it, because it's not easy. You are putting yourself out there. You are the main aspect to your craft, and because from our end, it's just our work. Our work, it doesn't matter how you're presenting it sometimes, because back end performers who are at the back end side and trying to deliver the technical aspect of their field, they are judged based on their performance, and the performance is what the screen is showing and what the technical aspect has been for, like. But it's never gonna they're never gonna judge your character, or they're never gonna judge you on a personal level, because
Yeah.
it's very easy to divide your work to your life with our field. That's what I'm thinking of right now. But with modeling as a career, it's gonna take a toll on you, on your life as well. That's what I feel, because
Sometimes,
it is an aspect that I wasn't thinking about.
yeah, which is why I earlier
But
also said that
yeah.
modeling teaches you a lot about rejection in general. Uh, I mean, because you're going to
Hmm.
do that almost every single day, but then over time, you also develop a thick skin, and you have to understand that it's not one opinion doesn't mean that you're not right for the industry. It just means you're probably not right for that organization, that set of people. You just got to find your matching pair, and that, the missing piece of the puzzle for yourself. So it works out, it works out. uh, would I say modeling is a guaranteed success route for like everyone? I'm not sure. Like that would be like probably like overestimating how it is. But then it also depends on like the time span. How much did you put into it? Right? Like a lot of people go into
Hmm.
theater classes and they want to become an actor, but then somebody puts in like 6 hours of practice after that every single day, and somebody just thinks, oh, because I did the workshop, I should get a movie. That's not how it works. So these things also take time. You have to be in the right place at the right time. A little bit of fate also sometimes.
Hmm.
So it's like constantly upskilling yourself. So if you can like ignore the rejections, you have to ignore it. And look at the bright side of it. Oh, at least like now I learned this, now I learned that, I can do this better. So if you look
Yeah.
at that, it's definitely something you're going to enjoy doing. But if you're going to get like sucked into the rejection part of it, then it can be quite taxing.
Yeah, because my mind, I think it's just how I'm wireframed. It's just that if you are pursuing modeling, you get in there, and if you want to achieve success in one of my very close friends, he's in Nepal. He's participating in the Face of Nepal, and we're just rooting for him. Arya, if you're listening, I'm always there. But yeah, same thing. He's a civil engineer as well. He was my batchmate, and now he's trying to pursue modeling as a career. And what I haven't seen that aspect yet, and I'm not envisioning that aspect for him yet. What if he doesn't get selected, or what if he doesn't, make it to the top or all thing? What I am thinking to myself right now is that he would be learning so much, so quicker and so early on, which would be of, how to carry himself, how to have a good communication skill, and that in turn, it's just a win-win for me. Like, this is where I stand with modeling right now, which is that it is a win-win situation, because you are going to turn out a better version than you were before you started to pursue this career. That's how I think this is. And oh wow, so yeah, we are getting a lot of engagement from the audience as well. And thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We started 42
Thank you.
minutes ago, but yeah. And again, talking about entrepreneurship, then, with modeling, that I see, and coming in from an engineer as well, I think there's so many things that you have, I think your journey so far, and the conversation we've had, it resonates a lot with that term, that if life gives you lemon, you make lemonade, because you've worked with everything that you've had, and you never let anything, demote you whatsoever. And you know, this is a perspective that I would never understand, because as a male, I believe I'm not receiving much hate. But yeah, it's I think it's very tough for a female to put herself out to the crowd, and specifically when it comes to modeling, it's you really opened my eyes to a side that I wasn't expecting to see with modeling. But yeah, how do you also, with the other aspect, which is entrepreneurship with modeling, which was something that we talked about that we should focus on. What do you think are the entrepreneurship opportunities related to modeling field? As a walking example yourself, you are, you know, the founder of Conquer, and it's been turning out really well, and I wish you all the best for that as well. But how do you feel entrepreneurship is right now, and where it stands with modeling?
I would say modeling is, like I said, it prepares you for almost just anything in life. Number one, you already know how to pretend to be confident,
Mm,
even if you don't feel so on some days, right? So you have that, like when you walk into a room, how to pitch and all of that stuff. I mean, so much matters. I mean, as much as people would like to think that appearance doesn't matter in entrepreneurship, I would say the way you carry yourself does. So that part you already kind of have figured out. Now, coming to all of the rejection you faced, you know how to sell yourself, you know how to negotiate. So the skills needed for entrepreneurship are already there, and the opportunities are there in the space itself. I mean, every model, because you don't learn this from school, right, or college. So obviously, you have some sort of educational background. You can come up with ideas regarding that. I have so many model friends, and people, when they look at modeling, why they don't probably think of the entrepreneurial side of it is because models don't start doing that in like the first 5 years of their modeling career. It's usually, I also
mm,
feel like I've done it too soon probably, but then the timing was there. So usually, like people who are now say 30, 35, I have so many friends who used to model back then, and now they are successful investors. They've started their own photography businesses, they've started their own grooming schools, they've become makeup artists, and by God, makeup artists make a lot of money, by the way. They can become a stylist, right? Creative direction. There is so much that you can do,
mm,
and you can become an author. I mean, I have a model who's also like, he's
yeah.
written a book and it's doing so well right now because people want to know about these experiences. You could be a TV show host, you could just be a travel show host. That's an opportunity that's been offered to me quite a lot. And I feel like, yeah, someday I'm going to do that also. Just like venture into that. If you can speak well, which is essential, even if you want to get signed up in a modeling agency, they interview you, and how you speak really matters because you had to be in TV commercials. So if you could do those, you could also be the
Mm,
host of so many shows online, right? Netflix, like with OTT, imagine how many hosting positions there are. So it's just endless. And these
yeah.
things are, like long-term professions that you can look at if you want to ever switch from modeling. I have a friend who's also, a sports host. So the women
Mm,
or the men also sometimes that you see, at IPL discussing, they were models earlier, right? So they learn on
yeah.
the go. You dabble into another field, but because you have so much of the skills that otherwise the personality grooming, how to speak, how to walk, how to carry yourself on front of camera, it's difficult to teach that to someone else. Like a cricket enthusiast becoming a host is different than a model becoming a cricket show host, right?
Mm,
It's way easier to teach the model.
yeah.
And so, like, you can start your own agencies and organizations. Like, once you've had enough experience of these things, you already have the network, right? If I, like, for instance, I wanted a team of photographers and makeup artists for my academy to do the portfolio shoots for my students, it's helpful because I've already worked with a lot of these people. And because you've created that name for
Mm,
yourself through all the professionalism that you've shown over the years, people just want to work with you because they've heard so much about you. And so I've had like a lot of people come to me and approach me directly, like, oh, I want to join Conquer and be like one of the team members, just because like of what Conquer has been doing in general. And that sometimes, like more than the results at times, when you have people wanting to join your team and work with you, that to me feels like, it's a testament to, oh, I must be doing something right. Why would people want to come and join me? Right. And they see the growth potential here. So I hope that tells our audience also, you can do so much. If you've been wanting to be an entrepreneur, it doesn't necessarily have to be a developer or the tech side of things, which a lot of people think. You could go in and be the marketing person of a startup or a venture, right? You could
Yeah,
always be good at sales and marketing if you've done modeling, because you just know how to do that. You've done that marketing pitch for yourself. So your career alone is
because
like your resume.
yeah, because that's what I'm looking for as well. Because what all skills we're mentioning regarding the modeling field, it's all resonating a lot with what's required out in the world with every field that I can imagine right now. Even with my field as well, making good relationships, having a good communication skill, it's gonna help you and take you very far in every stream that you would want to pursue. Because I think, when we go get those classes in our universities and in our schools regarding effective communication and all these bits, we should have a set where you teach a bit about modeling as well, because it is shaping you in all the best ways there are, because you see yourself shaping up to be the best version of you, and that's going to take you very far in any stream that you want to go for. And that is what I see myself, because many of my friends, when they came in to corporate life and when they came into technical fields, they came in, they started their career, and then they found out that, oh wow, how important communication skill is, how important carrying yourself is. And my manager always says to me that don't worry about the work, there is always someone that you will find who will get the work done. Apart from that, just try to make those relationships have strong, and try to make those relationships mean something when you do that work, because that's going to take you very long in your career, and that's going to take you very high in your career. But with this, I think it's very important, all the skills that you mentioned to carry yourself. And I think this one aspect which I wasn't expecting that would come out from this field, which is to have a very strong mentality and strong mindset. Because yes, you are first of all consenting to for people to judge how you are presenting yourself at the ramp. But then nowadays, because of social media, you have to have that same image and same mentality with everything that you are doing. So yeah, it's quite tough, and I do applaud you for this, and salute you and all the females who are trying to start with in this career and trying to see what they can do. And also, do you have we have a segment in our podcast where we have a final statement, and I'll ask that to you in like after 5 or 10 minutes. But what I wanted to ask was like, what message do you have for women out there? Because when to me, when you speak to me about success and what all this field is teaching you and whatever your journey has been so far, what I can see from my end is that it's shaping you to be the best version of you, and that is something that we all want to strive for at the end of the day. And I just do see that with you, and I know that there are many women out there who don't feel as confident, or they might be very confused with what step should they take forward. What would you have what would your message be?
I would say, one, do take action towards it, right? I like to say this thing that hope without strategy is just a dream. It's not going to come true unless you really take action on it. So ignore the lack of confidence that you're feeling right now. Really ignore it, because you're not going to feel confident for a while. And it takes a while. Some days I still don't feel confident, right? But then you learn to put on that front. So just go for it. At least minimize regret. Clock is ticking. I really feel like that. There's we have very little time in this short lifespan that we have. And if you have goals, just like go for them. And if someone tells you, even if it's your own family, I'm saying that for women, a lot of the times it's the people closest to you telling you that your dreams are impossible to achieve in some way, or they just tell you like, oh, this doesn't really make sense. Ignore it. Like, no matter who it is, even the people closest to you, prove to people who you are with, like, let your work talk for you. Don't let your words do the talking alone, because you have to just like move past it. You're like, you only have yourself in this life, even though it sounds like a really pessimistic outlook towards life. But I feel like as an individual, what you envision for your life, you have to stop waiting. And sometimes I feel like women are looking for mentors. Sheryl Sandberg talks about that in her book Lean In also. Stop looking for mentors and like people to guide you and hold your hand. Like, you want to make connections, you just like walk into a room full of people who are strangers and just see what happens, right? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Like, people are just going to not like you, which is fine. I also had this one thing that I had shared with a bunch of women that I had addressed earlier this year, that like your dream needs to be so big that it makes you uncomfortable, because the success that you dream of is never going to be accidental. It's gonna start with something and it's gonna involve like a bunch of work. So just have your priorities straight, know what you want, and then don't let anyone come in the way of that. That's what we
True.
message.
Thank you.
I hope that's like motivating.
Thank you. It is motivating to me as well, and so happy and so glad and so honored from the Liquid Gold podcast team and from myself as well. I would say thank you so much for agreeing to be here and being our first female guest. We couldn't imagine, and we couldn't even think about having a better guest, to be honest. And this has started on such a good note. And I hope so many of our listeners who are listening, they have fun and they just pursue with a smile on their face. And my approach as well would be that you have already nothing to lose. And like you said, it's not accidental as well. You wake up, you don't wake up and you are a millionaire. You have to work yourself. You have to work your way through. And again, just tremendously great answers. And thank you so much for coming into the Liquid Gold podcast. And lastly, it's just how we roll here in the Liquid Gold podcast, which is our final closing statement, which is there a quote that you live by? And the floor's all yours.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved this conversation so much, and I hope that it opens up the doors and paves the way for a lot more speakers. Because we like to say speakers and not women speakers. I think we should change that as well. And a quote that I live by is actually linked in my bio as well. Like, minimize regret. Every single day, every decision you take, minimize regret. If you're going to regret not doing it, just do it. That's it. I live life like that.
That's true. That's true. And it does reflect on your journey, I must say that, because transitioning yourself as from an engineer now into a modeling, into the field of modeling, and now having your own platform where you are teaching so many aspiring models out there, and it's working tremendously. It's working so well. I can see that, and now I'm so happy that your achievements are speaking for yourself rather than for you to prove that. And this is something that we are now 18 episodes in. We have featured 7 episodes so far, but I met another workaholic writer, and I do try to tell everyone that just spare some time and pat yourself on your back, because many times those who are working nonstop 24/7, they forget to do that, and they always think about what's not yet achieved or what's not yet conquered, and and what all I have achieved is something that it wasn't fate, or it wasn't meant to be. It was just something I worked hard for, and then I've achieved it. So just have that time to yourself. And it's such an honor to have you again as our guest, because we wouldn't be like hunting out for people who haven't reached success and then have them in our platform where they're speaking about their journey until they have achieved those bits. And you have done that. So thank you so much. And I commend you for that. And I commend to all of your team and all of your company. And hopefully, this conversation has taught me so much. And thank you so much for that wisdom. And thank you again to our audience. Thank you for the engagement again. And thank you to our sponsors as well. And hopefully, this life lesson has been turned into the liquid gold experience. Thank you so much. Bye.